exactly what you discussed.
I'm sorry, Frank?
I said I joined late, so I don't know part of the discussion, but the last time this was presented, Vincent and I had a concern about the parking. There didn't seem like there would be sufficient parking. And at that time we were told that what we were viewing was only conceptual and it would be addressed later. That was one of the questions they took back with them at that time. So the new design that's shown now is still the same one presented last time. It still doesn't seem to have enough parking. So that was one of the questions I have.
I think
How
I could
address parking.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things to sort of share with you all is that we did see there were a lot of open-ended comments that came in the questionnaires. As I said earlier, there was 1,200 that we received. A lot of people asked for better public transportation that would get to the Taylor Yard area. And so that's not something that is a project that the team here is working on, but it's something that we're hearing and seeing loud and clear as an important need. We do think that by the new Taylor Yard Bridge opening up, that will be one way that will provide access to this project. But it does plan to have I would call it a small parking lot. I think that we were proposing about 100 cars, 80 to 100. And so there will be many different ways that we would want people to approach to the project area. But I think that is something that we will keep a record of, and we keep on listening to the community. So appreciate that, Frank.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mendoza. So I got a question regarding the parking lot. So the proposed plan or design includes an area for concerts and events. Is that parking space will be sufficient to accommodate vendors, visitors, tourists, and members of the communities next to this park or proposed site project?
Deborah, do you feel comfortable helping answer that?
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
I'm happy to answer that. Alejandro, I think what you're referring to in the options was as part of the parking area and the kind of entrance pavilion, we showed that it could double as a gathering space for different kinds of community events. So depending on the scale of that event, there may need to be parking accommodated off the site or at the adjacent park, or if it's a smaller event, there would be spaces allocated and left open for the visitors. We're not right now conceiving of a performance space that's terribly large. Again, the focus of the open space is to be nature focused. But we did hear from the community an interest in having areas where the community could gather and have smaller public events. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you. Because we are facing an issue, similar issue at the park in Chinatown. The plan wasn't to have concerts as big as having like 5,000 people or more. And the problem also is from I hear from community members that the venue or whoever is in charge of that park charge for the parking and only leave like very small area for public parking for the public to park, visitors to the park. But also during the concerts, most of the park, like 2/3 of the park or more, are used for the concert and all these events. So I would like you guys to have that in mind. Keep in mind that when you finalize the design of this project, because we have been promised a lot of things from different projects, and at the end, everything is done the way is convenient for the corporations or agencies involved, but not for the community members. And unfortunately, due to this, all these amenities proposed to be in our communities, unfortunately, that also shows to trigger gentrification. So is there a plan that you are going to mitigate or contain or avoid gentrification, this specific project to trigger gentrification?
Bees, would you be able to just briefly kind of explain what is about to launch with the Taylor Yard Equity Strategy?
Sure. Thanks, Deborah and Alejandro. I'm really loving all of the questions and how you're framing them so far. So to introduce myself briefly, I work for the LA Neighborhood Land Trust, which is a smaller nonprofit member of La Rosa, which is a coalition that has been tasked by this group to do a series of efforts under the heading of the Taylor Yard Equity Strategy. So because there's because there's been so many folks who have been highlighting green gentrification and displacement as the effect, we know this now. It's not something that we are shying away from as an effect of these development efforts. We want to understand it better than any of these efforts ever have understood them before, and center not just the questions, not just the comments, but the strategies and visions of NELA communities for the next, we have funding for the next, for the rest of the year. So we're about to launch as an effort. So, I'm so excited to be in these meetings with all of you, so that Alejandro, hopefully you and I will speak again, when these efforts are off the ground. Now, I'm being a little bit high level for a reason, which is that there's just still a few conversations that we're having before all of our events get on the calendar. So you'll hear from us very, very soon. And this is a big priority for the 100-acre partnership for the city of LA, for all of the partners involved with Paseo del Rio. So I think that's kind of like an overview, and I can definitely have a longer conversation about exactly how we plan to articulate and convene spaces for this vision and these strategies to be articulated. And, the last thing I'll say is just that the outcome of this equity strategy will really be feeding back in to all of the many partners who are moving forward these park and public green spaces. So it's not going to sit on a shelf. It's going to feed right back into how we do work in our communities in the future.
Thank you. Is there a place or a link that where we can, or you can share all these equity strategies, so we can share it with the public and read it a little bit more, so we can understand it better?
Yes, you're one step ahead of me, which is why I'm like smiling and just like, I wish I had a little more to give you right now. We have somebody working on getting a webpage that's live as we speak, but I put my email in the chat. It's just my name at LA Neighborhood Land Trust, and I'm the person who would be happy to chat with anybody from this group and others. And I'll make sure I will make sure that all of you have that link as soon as it's live. So thank you again.
Thank you. And my last question to you, these equity strategies are going to be complementary, or are they going to be fundamental on before the work starts on all these projects, or will be implemented afterward? Thank you.
I got a little distracted clicking the link that's in there. So I just wanted to note, Alejandro, that Brian was able to find the page that 100 Acre Partnership has for the Taylor Yard Equity Strategy. So thank you, Brian. You know, as somebody who's relatively newer to this work compared to some of us, you know, in this call, my perspective is as someone who's coming in, not at the beginning, not at the end, but very much in the middle of efforts to make this type of work community driven and community led when possible. So you know, the best way I can speak to what you just asked, Alejandro, is that it kind of has to be necessarily is concurrent a little bit. So I know, you know, I know that it's like we wish certain things happen first and then other things, but there's been so much work taken to this point that, you know, I'm personally in awe of to even get to this point. I wish that we could do this equity strategy as fast as possible, but I'm also very thrilled that first of all, that we received all the funding to do it, that we're doing it, that we're kicking it off, and that we're really setting, you know, everyone involved, particularly the, you know, our agency partners who kind of secured that funding and were able to create the space for this. You know, we're setting a model within LA, within the county, within, and, you know, and across the country. There are a lot of kind of eyes on what we're doing because this is a problem everywhere. But, you know, we're first and foremost based in Northeast LA. So that's our primary, that's where, you know, that's our primary concern and priority, and where we're doing the work. So, you know, yeah, the timelines, we're trying to make the most of, you know, what we are able to do. And I think that's, you know, that's the most direct way I can speak to that.
I just would add to what our partners who are working on the equity strategy, it is happening concurrently, Alejandro, with the support of the 100 Acre Partnership agencies and others, and they bring to the table connections to other nonprofits who could potentially be funders for the kinds of activities that other equity strategies around the country have put in place. So we're very excited about the work on the equity strategy, which is a concurrent effort to support the folks who live in the community and to give tools to stop or limit gentrification and displacement. And as Biz had said, it's an exciting effort. So we coordinate our timeline on our projects. It's somewhat hard to predict because there's a lot of steps to getting all the approvals we need on the project. So the equity strategy will move along concurrently with the design work.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you so much. Alana Silbert, you have a question, please?
I do. I mean, it's a broad question, and you've mentioned bits and pieces here and there, but it sounds like you've done a lot of community outreach, and I think, Brian, you were saying you had about 1,200 responses. You can't, you know, tell me what's in all of those 1,200 responses, but I mean, are there things that rise to the top, you know, that are sort of expressed by a large majority of people? Are there things that people have expressed that have come as surprises? It may be an unfair question.
I think that, you know, I think in general, we could very fairly say that none of the three options were disliked. All of them had, to some degree, a significant amount of support. There was, I think, one of them that kind of rose to the top, and so. But I think that we were able to demonstrate that, like, the elements, the natural elements from each of them were very much liked. We had some ones that had like straighter lines and things, that there was a lot of commentary that, like, used meander, like curves you need to have curves and meandering shapes and organic features. And I think that we weren't surprised, because that really works really well with the kind of passive natural spaces that we're talking about. There was a lot of support of nature. I saw tons of people that said not to use turf grass, to use native plants, to use green spaces that would support nature. And there were a lot of comments on like, how much longer is this going to take? Please get on with it. But at the same time, we have to follow the process of really developing a design with community support, and with participation that becomes support. And so I think that there is like a frustration, I can say, just as a planner, of how long they take longer than the community wants them to be. But at the same time, that can be an advantage to allow us to implement some of these things that the equity strategy is seeking to do. So I think that can be both good and bad, how long things can take, but we want to implement these things too. And so, I think overall there was a lot of excitement. We definitely heard that it needs to be safe and clean, and that's something that we've always heard. And so I don't think that there were a lot of surprises.
Thank you. That was helpful.
So Alejandro, I think
Yeah.
I had a sense that we had a hard stop at 8. I don't know if there was any other questions before we finish up with the Q&A.
Yeah, let me see. I don't think. Let's go for any questions. Oh, before we finish, really quick. Recent. This has to do with some of the reports that you have provide us or provide to the public. Recent finding, and it is in regards of endangered species on the Los Angeles River. Recent findings from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife has shown that an endangered species, the least bell's vireo, has been found and extended its range through these areas, specifically to the Los Angeles River flood control channel area. And I was informed that the California Department of Fish and Wildlife is being denying permits for any activity along the river until further notice. So, and also I've been involved in conducting surveys for over 10 years for this specific species, the least bell's vireo. And finally, it was I was able to document a few birds. So this is from this species at the Paseo del Rio State Park. And also the past few days, I have identified this bird also right at the Taylor yard for sale. It is extremely important because this, I don't know if most people will know about this bird, but this bird is iconic. It's can be only found in California, and also the saddest part is that it's on the brinks of extinction. So a lot of efforts is, as a matter of fact, May 2nd, 1986 was the Vireo was federally declared as an endangered species and listed as an endangered species. So since then they've been trying to recover the numbers from this species. So my question is, these findings will be included on the strategies and plans in regards of the Taylor yard now that it has become a very important part of the everything around this project.
So yes, Alejandro, for specifically the Paseo del Rio project, we are conducting an ecological risk assessment that our remediation consultant is working on currently, and we're working with DTSC on reviewing that, and they will be including the least bills Vireo as part of that risk assessment.
When are you guys going to include this new factor?
So the risk assessment is currently being developed.
Oh, it's been developed. Okay. So are you guys planning that risk assessment includes surveys fully compliant with the federal law that protects this specific species of birds, endangered species of birds?
So the risk assessment is going to determine what needs to be done in order to be protective of all of the ecology on site. And as part of that assessment, the least bills Vireo is being included.
Okay. So no, well, never mind. Is there where can I find that plan for the assessment? Environmental assessment?
It's not completed yet. It's being developed at this time. We are working with DTSC on developing that, and so once that is completed and finalized, it will be uploaded until Vireo as part of the DTSC record. Okay,
is the California Fish and Wildlife will be included as well as the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services in this assessment, or who's going to conduct all this risk assessment?
So the risk assessment is being completed by the city's environmental consultant.
But we will be compliant with California Fish and Wildlife. We have to be compliant with them, and they will give us requirements for surveys and times that we can do construction. And it might be instructive, Alejandro, to let Edward Belden talk for a minute about the survey work that we're doing right now at Rio de Los Angeles State Park. Edward, maybe you could help.
Sure. Yeah, so there's obviously some improvements we're looking at, as we mentioned, at Rio de Los Angeles State Park on the fields area, in the active recreation area, but we've been coordinating with California Department of Fish and Wildlife and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and so we have protocol surveys that follow the guidelines from Fish and Wildlife and California to look at the birds, to document where they are, and then to make sure that as we implement our project that we ensure that there's no impact to those birds and that we'll follow a no-take process.
Thank you. So you will be fully in compliance with the federal law that protects and protocols that protects the endangered species.
Yes, and we already are. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, I don't know if anybody else would like to make a comment on this or not. Going once, going twice. I don't think so.
Alejandro, thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, and once again, my sincerest apologies for the delay. Thank you for the presentation. We're going to be in contact with you very soon too, with more questions from the public that couldn't enter the meeting.
Thank you, Alejandro. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. And the next item.
Thank you.
Thanks again. Yeah.
Well, I think the same people. 100 Acres Partnership intend to adopt an initial study and mitigate negative declaration for Bowtie G1 Parcel Demonstration Plan projects. It's do you need access, Joe? The screen sharing access?
So Alejandro, I know on our end, we were primarily item A. I didn't believe we were here for item B, or there wasn't any coordination for item B on our end.
Okay.
Alejandro, hi, this is Stephanie. I can speak to item B. If you have any specific questions, that is the ISMND for the Nature Conservancy Wetland Demonstration Project.
Okay, my understanding it was like you guys will do a presentation in regard this the MNDs.
No, Alejandro, we primarily had given, when we communicated it via email, it was primarily for the 100-acre partnership overall update, not specific to this item.
Okay. And there was some misunderstanding or something. So, Ms. Campbell, are you planning to present the presentation or give any information in regards to this matter?
No, I have a couple of slides that were, that Joey may have. There were the slides that you would have seen if you attended the DTSC meeting last week with discussing the removal action work plan. So there are a couple of things that are happening in relation to the DTSC project. The removal action work plan has been released, and there's a 45-day comment period on that. And then thank you, Joey. Here is the 2.5-acre wetland demonstration project. The ISMND was released also, I believe, with a 45-day comment period. And I have some links I can put in the chat. I don't have a full presentation to give on this. Again, I was here as part of the 100-acre partnership. So I have a couple of, this slide, which is the schematic of the overall demonstration project. And then I have, there's a second slide that gives you a little bit of sense on the ground, what the site is going to look like. This will allow for public access, but limited public access. You'll see that the wetland area is fenced off, so there's not going to be direct access there, which is going to be helpful for wildlife and for habitat, which is the intent of the project. Including, with regard to the lease bells Vireo. I believe I'm not aware that we're going to have a public meeting on the ISMND. The Nature Conservancy has been periodically, we've been giving a lot of updates at the neighborhood council meetings about the progress on the project. DTSC had the raw meeting last week. And the document is available like hard copy at Rio de Los Angeles, and then online. If you give me a minute, I can put some links in the chat.
Please, thank you. I was reading the documents, the plan. It's over 500 pages. It's huge. So we still going through the whole thing. But something that that I on the top of my head that I remember is that we didn't see the reports on soil conditions like toxicity and all that. I don't know if we missed it or we haven't get there yet. But
that would be in the removal action work plan, which I just put the links in the chat, and give me a second and I'll put the links for the ISMND.
The geology too. Yeah, too, I think so.
It also.
Yeah, okay. And the mitigation, the plan that you have to do the mitigation on this site is only for the 3 acres or the 17 acres. You're gonna do the mitigation on the whole site at once, or how is it gonna be conducted?
Sorry. So yes, we're going to mitigate the whole site right now. As you see, the remedial action work plan for the smaller demonstration project is ready for public review, so you can look at that. State Parks right now is presented our proposed work plan to DTSC. They're reviewing it. We're waiting for comments back on that. So we will have a separate plan for remediation of the remaining acres outside of the demonstration project site.
Okay, thank you. Another question is why an M&D and not a full EIR to do the whole for the whole 70 acres?
I believe that is the level of CEQA that our designers determined was appropriate for the site.
It was CEQA or it was DTSC who recommended it?
It was not DTSC. Our designers are working on the design for the site, and they've been working, as I said, in conjunction with working with designers on the Paseo del Rio project, also working with the Army Corps of Engineers. So it appears that they're moving towards doing an ISMND.
Okay, thank you. Anybody? And I remember from a previous conversation that I have with you, Mrs. Campbell, that you mentioned that the Bowtie was already remediated to industrial standards. And however, Mrs. Vireo mentioned that most of the contamination or contaminants were found at 2 feet deep. So and I'm sorry because I'm not an expert on this, but I don't understand how it was remediated to industrial standard before we have still 2 feet of contaminants on the area.
So I believe you're speaking in regard to the meeting last week when they were looking at the demonstration project site. Yes, that was where the majority of the contaminants were found, and the work plan is, if you've looked at the work plan and if you were at the meeting, the plan is to remove that entire 2 top feet of soil in the demonstration project area. But yes, the Bowtie had been cleaned to commercial industrial standard. And I did, one thing I know that's probably on your mind that I want to address is that we are working on getting the fence up. It's taken a lot longer than I would have liked. So I'm sure that you're, frustrated with the length of time as well. But I just wanted to let you know that I have been diligently working on getting that fence up across the entryway at Casitas. First of all, just to have better control of the site, and also in anticipation of the construction projects that are going to start happening relatively soon with the Nature Conservancy's demonstration site as well. So I am working on that. Our facilities and maintenance crew are getting bids on that fence and working to get that up for you.
Oh, and I really appreciate that and the effort. It's just like I was trying to understand if that area was still not okay for the human interaction, direct human interaction with that area. And even though it was already cleaned up to industrial standards, and now the new report readings shows that there is a lot of contamination, carcinogenics and other very toxic pollutants, and people have been allowed unrestricted access to these areas since 2013. And even though the California State Parks and other agencies promoted events at those places, hundreds, probably thousands of people, families were exposed to all these contaminants without even knowing it. So it wasn't until right now, just yesterday, there was a bunch of people playing, I don't know how they call it, it's like baseball. And there is no signs, there is no restriction, there is nothing to avoid or at least alert people to be aware of the area they're going about to enter. And it will be up to them if they want to enter or not, but at least be aware or make them aware of that. And that's something that we don't, or I personally don't understand how this works. And to me, trust is everything. If we cannot, or through actions from the past and now, and like I said, I'm not saying that you're not trying to do your best or your efforts are not being on this matter are there, but it's just we need to. I think a lot of more needs to be done in order for you guys, agencies, public agencies, to gain our trust, because that's why most of us are so into this thing for the we want to protect and we want to protect the health, safety, and welfare for families and Angelinos in general, public in general. So I would like to have a better or you providers a better understanding of all this process without getting too complicated and in order for you know to do this project the right way. So
Sure. I noticed Sarai Jimenez has her hand up.
yes, I was about to recognize her. Okay, go ahead, Sarai. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Alejandro and Stephanie. I just wanted to add a quick note and let folks know on the call that DTSC will be providing a second virtual meeting to discuss the removal action work plan for the 3-acre Bowtie wetland demonstration on Monday, May 15th at 6 p.m. And they are working to get a copy of the recorded video from the meeting that Alejandro, I believe you attended last week. So we can make that available for folks once it is available to the public. And Alejandro, I think that would be a great opportunity if you need to, I think you joined late for that one, but Jesse really did go into a full overview explaining the removal action work plan and what the decision was to remove those top 2 feet of soil. Stephanie has, mentioned a few times before, the Bowtie is remediated to industrial standards. We are remediating prior to construction of the wetland to residential standards. Those are the that's the highest sort of standard for cleanup, and that's what we will be remediating to for the wetland, which is why there's that why the removal of the contaminants in the top 2 feet is taking place to get to that residential standard. So I encourage folks to attend the public meeting for more information in an accessible format, because you're right, Alejandro, it does get very technical very fast, but DTSC does the best that they can to get into those technical items in an accessible way with a presentation, with some diagrams and such.
Yeah, and I'll just add, the intent is to remediate all of Bowtie to that residential standard. So we're definitely all working towards that.
Oh, okay, thank you. Two points that I have on regards to that. Residential standards are not federally created to areas where recreational areas where not only people will be sitting or watching TV at home and stuff like that. There will be people walking, exercising, running, and stuff like that, which is a totally different data that have to be in consideration in order to create a safe and healthy standards. It's just like industrial standards are not the same as of course as residential standards, and also residential standards will never be the same for or with a standards that haven't been created yet by the federal agency for recreational purposes. So that's another issue. And the other issue is, well, many issues. In the past, we have witnessed the failure to fully comply with all these mitigation plans that are being right now proposed or will be implemented. And during the excavation and removal process of the contaminated soils and other projects along the river, and also right now with Avenue 34, that's another huge problem there. And unfortunately, it was DTSC, the agency who was in charge of this projects to fully comply with all this the requirements from all these mitigation plans. So when we tried to report it, it was extremely difficult to find the person in charge. At that time, we didn't know it was DTSC. We didn't know it was in charge, DTSC in charge of the checking or making sure that everything was in compliance. And when finally people were able to contact them, the recommendation the response was one of the responses was, you need to call the city or contact the contractor and let them know. So that's something that worries us a lot. The community members on all the adjacent communities, because there was a lot of dust. We were able to document it on video and photographic material. The whole mess. We were reading all that stuff for months, and until this day, nobody has given us any answers or didn't do anything to or let me rephrase that. There was some remediation at the moment, like for a day or two, but after that, the whole problem was on again, and there was no one on site from DTSC to address all these issues from the communities. And I'm telling you this because I was almost there almost every day, and that is something that really concern the health, safety, and welfare of families, to go again through all this process and all these promises made, but at the end it will be the same result, the same failure to comply with all these mitigation plans. So we would like for you guys to, I'm sorry, really quick, to give us a straight answer. Who's going to be responsible and how are you planning to fully comply with this? Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll just jump in. Thanks for sharing that context, Alejandro. I don't think anyone on this call can speak to, those efforts on in other locations in Los Angeles that you're referring to. But I'd like to refer you and others on the call to what Stephanie put in the chat regarding the removal action work plan public review period that notes DTSC, the Department of Toxic and Substances Control, is the state agency responsible for oversight of the cleanup for the Bowtie wetland demonstration. And you can access all the links, all the information in the links that I provided. Jessie Fierro, who is the project manager, her contact information is there. She is the person you would contact if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, especially during this public comment period from April 3rd, closing on May 2nd. And Teresa Hernandez, her contact information is also on that public notice. She's the public relations specialist. So we do, for this project, and in this case, have contact information specifically for people who will receive your input and respond back to you.
Thank you. And this plan, these MNDs are still in the process to be adopted, or they're going to be adopted after the 45 days period?
So the public comment period is opened on April 25th, closes on June 8th. That is the time when the public has an opportunity to review the Project Initial Study Mitigated Negative Declaration, ISMND, known by its acronym. And after that point, state parks and the design team, who Stephanie alluded to, will be reviewing and incorporating the feedback and responding directly to folks who submit public comment.
Great, thank you. Mr. Montalvo, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Just to reiterate and not, to copy what Alejandro was saying, I just came back from a meeting that has to deal with DTSC. It's out of the area. It's closer to me. And I think what we all got to realize here is that there's a failure on what's happening, not just with DTSC, but they are the state agency. I think all the agencies that are here today, whether you're part of the 100-acre partnership, that's part of a lot of these agencies, you guys have to have some of that responsibility to talk to the state. The state has lawsuits against it right now. The state has projects like Avenue 34 that they were going to pass with the plan until someone in the public released that information that got the city councilman to block the project because they were not doing their job right. I mean, everyone that's in here is part of an agency and you guys serve the public. This is what worries me, is that we always look to the state when our city agencies are listening to these comments. And like I said, I just heard another one today. It was very important. And it's one that I'm going to bring up to the state again. Why does this continue to happen on sites that we know are contaminated? The Paseo del Rio project, like Avenue 34, these all have one thing in common. They're all contaminated zones. They're historically put into the city files because we could never build nothing on them. Now we magically wave a wand in this ordinance of readaptive reuse that the state has no influence on, but has the jurisdiction on what type of plan you're going to put to mitigate this issue that we have. And to me, being in the state working, all that sounds to me is, how are we going to try to fool the people now to put this plan out that we think is going to work, because we don't know, because we've never remediated, right? I'm looking at the William Mead project right now that they asked me to come and look at. William Mead was remediated again, and it turns out that it wasn't done by a good job, a plan approved by DTSC. And then DTSC is going to come back in and the public saying, do we trust them again? I mean, this is the damage that's being caused right now. It's insufficient. You have places that people are actually having events on before any remediation. And I asked DTSC not too long ago with Jesse, how could the city agencies allow nonprofits and their own agencies to promote events on these project sites that have not gone through no remediation at all? And somehow, some way, when I said that, all of a sudden I went to another event where I had to sign a waiver of my right. I had to sign a waiver that said I knew I was going onto a toxic site for liability issues. And I think everyone needs to sit back and take this in as a project, as the 100-acre partnership, because it's multiple issues. And the issue is with the state. The issue is trying to push these projects through with the illusion that it's safe for people right now when there's history that it's known contaminated. That's why that Avenue 34 is going to be very important in the legal suit that we're doing, because it proves that the city and state never cared to even dig in. Now, this is the state agency that's creating this plan. The state agency came and told us, we know the contaminants are there. This is the plan that we're submitting in. Until we release that information and the city councilman says, hey, hold on, this is not okay. We have to put a stop to it. We need a better plan, because they're flying in blindly. They don't have a history base, and neither does the city. And before we tackle any of these projects, this is something that has to be brought up, because you guys are dealing with the health, safety, and welfare of the public. As an elected official myself, we took an oath to protect them. As you guys, employees of the state, city, county, wherever you're employed from, is to protect those people. The way you guys organized a 100-acre partnership for the park is how you organize, again, against the state to hold them accountable, so that we can make this park hopefully one day safe, if possible, without having to, misinterpret what we're giving out to them, because everybody knows already. And it was so sad to see what was there today, and the state's name comes up again. Jesse's name comes up again. This is an ongoing issue in our community. And I've asked now the councilwoman in District 1 to now take the initiative to call out DTSC. This is an environmental injustice now. All these projects that are happening on known toxic sites, and people are being allowed to get into them. Thank you. Alejandro, are you there? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mrs. Barajas, go ahead, please.
Hello, I'm sorry. I came in late. Zoom wouldn't let me in. I just want to say, and I've repeated this from the very beginning when these projects barely started. I was here when the first one was done with the railroad and saw all the damage that it did. You know, I'm gonna again reiterate, I am not against green space and having, you know, these parks. I just want transparency. And right now, when Alejandro asked you, you know, who's going to be in charge, I thought that's what the 100-acre partnership was developed for. Because in the past, it would be, no, you have to call DTC and whatever. You have to call this, you have to call that. And we would just be getting the runaround. We were even told to call that smog line, you know, and he asked who would be the person once this project starts, once the decontamination starts, who are we going to contact when we see that there's they're not following the rule? I think that was his question. And for me, that would be the same thing. Who would be the contact person, the main person who would be responsible for the project? You know, I understood that's why the 100-acre partnership was developed, and that's why you were going to have one particular agency take over and be that point person. So are they going to be that person? So when you actually start the plan, people can ask questions or, you know, report anything that they see? Or is it going to continue with nobody really answering the question? Who's going to be not really responsible? Is who's going to take the responsibility to be that point person so he can pass on the information to the right people and not just ignore the concerns of the community, I guess would be my question. And that's something that still hasn't been answered. And so, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Romana. We're on item B and talking about the Bowtie wetland demonstration. So regarding who's responsible for the remediation, you know, DTSC is responsible for oversight of that remediation. That is why they are the ones leading with the virtual public meeting that happened on Thursday, the 27th. Another one's happening on May 15th. I assume that you're on their listserv for receiving the public notices.
Yeah.
During the remediation process, they are the agency that you reach out to if and now during the public comment period regarding remediation. When we go into construction, remediation will happen first and then construction. That's when you will contact Kelsey Jessup and Stephanie Campbell if you have any questions about what's going on. And we TNC and state parks will continue to be the sort of outreach folks that you can also contact if you're having trouble getting word back from DTSC about something. You know, Jesse Fierro or Teresa Hernandez, you can always reach out to me and Stephanie and Kelsey Jessup about both remediation and construction, and we will refer you to the DTSC folks for remediation.
Yeah, because those were the major concerns, like when you were doing the testing and everything, the plumes of smoke and of dust and everything, and the kids in the school. I think that was one of the biggest concerns that we had, and yet we called and called and called, and nobody would take the information. And like Alejandro says, we have tons of pictures, tons of videos, and nobody ever really responded. And so moving forward, I would suggest to have that one point person at least contact a phone number when you're doing these presentations so that the community can feel more calm about it and be able to report and heard and make sure that if something went wrong in the project site, because it's, I mean, in a project site that a lot of things can happen that leadership will never find out, you know, but the community does, you know, so that we make sure that we are being heard and that the problem is being addressed. I guess that's what we want. So moving forward, it's just having that transparency and not being sent around to call, because calling Jessie and her department is very hard and you won't get a response for a while. So where is it that we can actually call, get a response, and then have that person says, I will follow up and get you an answer, or we'll follow up on your observation or your concern, and we'll take care of it. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
That's good to know that you've had trouble getting responses from Jesse. I put my email in the chat. I think Stephanie can put hers and I'll put in Kelsey's. If you know, regarding anything remediation wise, we will have to refer you to DTSC, but if you're not getting an answer from them, we can ping them. I know that's not necessarily the answer that you're looking for, but I mean, we, as usual, will make it a priority to make sure you get your answers as soon as possible.
Okay, and then
I'm sorry, one more thing. For the public notices, both for the ISMND and for the removal action work plan are currently on site. They are, you know, I personally went to go put those notices. They're laminated, they have zip ties at the entrance and on a couple of the fences. And that those documents, they either have contact information for DTSC or for the ISMND contact information from Luke Sedmas, I believe is his last name, from State Parks, who will receive the public comments for that. So we will continue to make sure there are notices on site with contact information of actual people.
okay, and then I just wanted to ask, I know, especially for the Bowtie project, there was a lot of concern of underground contaminants other than the ones that are already there. You know, I know I forget the name, and I'm sorry, I have such a moment tonight. But an underground coming from Silmar, is that contamination that's coming down, and then from other contaminants from companies across, you know, like metal factories. So we don't know what kind of water and the recycling and everything. But do you know if the rain, because we got a lot of rain this year, has it shifted like the water table? Has it made any concerns for all the plants that were made prior to all the rain? Has anybody checked into that?
I would refer for you to look at the ISMND for more information on water and the research that our consultants did for that. The short answer is, you know, we took into consideration extreme weather events, both drought and storm, into our analysis. And as you know, the project is, no water from the project will seep down into the groundwater at all. The project will hold water on site, and any site that isn't used for irrigation will be sent back to the LA River, but now as treated water. So that analysis is available in the ISMND.
Thank you. In regards of your last comment, Mrs. Jimenez, there is also a lot of concerns of that. Like one of them is like right now you say where do you post those notices at Bowtie for sale?
Yes, can you repeat your question? Sorry.
Oh, if the post, the notices, you posted at the Bowtie for sale?
Yes, they were posted at the Bowtie parcel and also a few posted at Rio.
But people are not supposed to enter that area. So why are you guys informing people or encouraging people to enter those areas?
The notices don't encourage us folks to enter the area. The notices just on the periphery inform folks of these two different processes. And Stephanie can speak to, you know, I think she already talked about the fencing, but that's upcoming.
Yeah, I understand that. I appreciate that from Ms. Campbell, but that's the issue that we have. With all due respect, please, TNC is a nonprofit, shares no liability whatsoever. So when Mrs. Barajas was referring to, is like we need a contact person, but you're giving us your information. We appreciate that, but you're not the responsible public agency on any level, to city, county, or state. And once again, we have to go through a third party in order for us to be our concerns to be addressed. That's exactly the problem. We need Mrs. Vireo to be here to answer those questions, because the proposed what's the name? MND, it's about 600 pages. I've been, and other people too, for 2 days, consecutive days, and we haven't even finished half of it. There's a lot of technicality. There's a lot of things that we don't understand. We have to do research. We have to ask and specialists to come and start kind of guide us through the whole thing. So we are just regular people. That's why we need agencies be responsible, okay, to come and address those questions and those issues, to give us straight answers. And I have nothing against anybody here, but we are demanding that. We deserve that, because every single project, and like I said, with all due respect, every single checked issue to all these agencies and nonprofit comes from taxpayers. You know what I mean? And the only thing where we are demanding and expect is a little bit of respect and a lot of responsibility from you guys. Because now if something happens, who's going to be liable? TNC is going to say, oh, MRC is going to say, oh, it's Mrs. Campbell, oh, it's due under agency, and so on. And we have experienced all that already. What Mrs. Barajas were referring to is being, this problem is not like nothing new. It's been like this for years, decades. We've been addressing this, suffering this problem for years and years, and nothing has been done. We demand and expect the DTSC to implement air monitoring devices. You have no idea how the city and the opposition, the city put in order for us to get all that. So this is nothing new. Probably it's new for you, Mrs. Jimenez, but not for us. And especially not for the families that live right adjacent to all these areas. So we need personnel from the agencies responsible at the meetings to answer questions and address our concerns, please.
So on that note, Alejandro, I think there's a little bit of confusion here. I've tried to clarify, but I'm sorry if I haven't been clear. For the removal action work plan, which DTSC oversees as the state entity responsible for oversight of remediation, they are the entity who you would contact about this. They're the state agency that is providing oversight. If you want, DTSC to come to your meeting, then you are at liberty to invite them. And you are welcome. And I know that they want folks to go to the virtual public meeting on May 15th. Stephanie Campbell from State Parks, which is the state agency who owns the 18-acre Bowtie parcel, Stephanie is here. So if you have any questions regarding the ISMND, please reach out to Stephanie. I put my contact information in the chat because I really enjoy working with community. And since TNC is collaborating with State Parks for the Bowtie Wetland demonstration, that's the role that I've had, as well as Kelsey Jessup. So we're just here to help with communication and connect the dots. And ultimately, State Parks is the state agency responsible as the owner of the parcel. So they are the entity. If you have questions about ISMND, you can email Stephanie and copy me and Kelsey as the TNC folks. So there are two state agencies who are overseeing those two things, and we are working closely with DTSC on all items regarding remediation.
Thank you. Do you have any phone numbers that we can get in contact with DTSC directly?
I can put that information in the chat.
Please, thank you. Because I noticed that on the G2 parcel, there is numbers and names that we can contact them in case of something happen along that parcel, and we have done that too. So thank you. Anybody wants to make any comments? Questions? I don't see any. Okay, really quick. This is what I noticed when we were going through the MND. Mrs. Campbell, you mentioned that these wetlands will be hosting, or also the design is going to be to have some riparian habitat for wildlife. But anywhere on the report or on the plan is mentioned the endangered species once again, and I know it sounds like a scratch record, but the list Bell's Vireo is not mentioned there, and so there is no records for surveys that are required by the U.S. Department of the Interior and also U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services and California Fish and Wildlife Service, California Fish and Wildlife. In the report, there is no mention of this bird or any other species of endangered, which are an endangered species, and also the habitat that is planning to be created here is not suitable for any of these species, unfortunately. Yes. Just like a beautiful example and perfect example is the Rio de Los Ángeles State Park. They have 1 acre of riparian habitat, but only two how do you call it? 2 couples, 2 pairs of Los Vireos can habitat that area because of the territorial nature. And this area is only 3 acres, and there is a lot of water. There is a lot of area for the public and recreational areas. So the type of also there is no mention of the type of plants or trees that they're going to be planted. And one of the issues with this specific species of endangered species and bird, it's they require a lot of space. A lot of space. Right now, in Luis Rincon, I don't know if she's, oh yeah, here's, I already reported a nest, and unfortunately, nothing has been done. Yesterday, I went to check on this nest, and unfortunately, there was staff from the park almost taking down the nest. And I already informed this person, this staff. I informed Mrs. Campbell, I informed Mr. Rincon, I'm sorry, but nothing has been done. And the reason, I would say the reason I was given is that because it takes time. But this is not the first report. 2020 was reported to, 2022 it was reported to. I sent you guys, all of you guys here, those reports, and nothing has been done. So it's a huge concern along the health, safety, and welfare of the public, but also with the habitat for wildlife. Instead of parks, like I previously stated and mentioned, when we were asked if we want another park, right? Why don't address the real issues that are more concerning in our city, which is water and homelessness? Create something in regards of that matters. So there is a lot of stuff that the proposal are not addressing. We're gonna send you definitely we're gonna send you emails and mention that, and hopefully you can include it on those plans before take any action, or any action has been taken. Thank you. I don't have a question, it was just a comment. If anybody else wants to make any comment or final question, please do so, going once, twice.
Yeah, Alejandro, I
Yes,
just want
sir.
to add a little comment. Yeah, just because you mentioned my name, of course, and I just want to address that. Yeah, I connected to the supervisor. I got a response from the wildlife biologist at the Department of Fish and Wildlife. She just wants to know the location, and so we're looking into setting up protocols as far as maintenance for the least Bells Vireo. And so we're just want to let you know, lend you have my phone number, you have my email. I feel comfortable communicating with you in both Spanish and English, and yeah, let's work. It's a community effort. I mean, this is what we're doing here. So it takes a lot of effort to get this done, and so I feel confident that moving forward that we can, address the issues to where all parties are benefited, including, most importantly, the least spells viral and the public. So yeah. Thank you, Alejandro, for bringing it to our attention, and I'm happy to work with you and help with you, in any way I can. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Con.
Yeah. And thank you. I think we're all really pleased to see the least spells Vireo at Rio de Los Angeles. And, our department, Luis in particular, has been working really hard on habitat improvements that, our department feels like that's the best thing we can do right now in terms of helping the Vireo is to improve habitat, and improving the habitat will improve the chances of breeding success for the bird. So thank you for reporting to Luis. I know he let me know, I spoke to him earlier today. He let me know that you had informed him about the nest and the maintenance worker getting a little close. And so, we're, in contact with Department of Fish and Wildlife and all working together to make sure that we're doing the right thing to protect the bird and improve the habitat.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Anybody else? I don't think so. I don't know if I think that will conclude this item. Mr. Legazpi, you have any comments or? Nope. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your time. And we're gonna close item 6B, and we're gonna start with item 6C. You're more than welcome to stay. I know it's late, and I really appreciate it. You guys being this long. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Thank you. Take care. Mr. Montalvo. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Montalvo.
No, I was just on item C. Is that what you were talking about a little while ago?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I got a call from the Department of Fish and Wildlife and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Okay, and I don't know if you told me or someone else told me about permits not being issued. So I got a copy of the reason from the biologist why, and I think you should give a copy to anybody of the 100-acre partnership, because it's not just looking for the nests, it's preparing a zone to protect the birds. I think the document that you had sent me, that they're federally protected and they have a special protocol for them, that also should be sent out to all the people, because that's federal law. That's not something any state, city, or county agency can push on it. But it's also going to stop a lot of the projects that are going along the river right now. So get an email as soon as possible with all that information on it.
I will.
And we'll set up a meeting to talk to them, because they're also interested on, there's a couple of other birds that fly in the area, and they wanted to check to see, but everyone's looking for money. But yeah, highlighting that, Mr. Palomino, give yourself a pat on the back, because that bird is really it's gonna force the state to enact some of these important laws.
I really wish, because it's been ignored and it's been neglected and all that purposely for the freaking for money, basically.
Yeah, but the pajaritos coming out now, so
I know they are, and that's
don't drop the ball on it, because I'm gonna help you from the state side, because I made some contacts. I'm gonna put you in contact with them, and they really want to look at that issue, because apparently they're even saying this, that the state up until